Hi and welcome. This is DCS World, Digital Combat Simulator, and I'm using the Tobii Eye Tracker 5 in this video. I'm using the Tobii Experience software plus Tobii Game Hub, so I'm using Game Hub version 2.8.1. So the Tobii Eye Tracker 5 gives you head and eye tracking and lets you look around inside a game world, so you don't have to use your mouse to look around. You can just use your eyes. You don't have to wear anything on your head. You can just sit in front of your computer monitor and look around, and it will pick up what you're doing, either with your eyes or with your head. Once you've got the game installed for DCS World, you can jump into the Tobii website and download the Game Hub software. Once you've got the software, it'll either find the game for you, or you can tell it where you've got DCS World installed. And then once it's known that, you can go over to here and you can click Tobii Enabled, and you'll have all these settings that you need to set up for the game. So you're setting up the settings for the Tobii inside the Game Hub software with DCS World. Now this is not like that for all games. Some games will have the settings within the game, like Microsoft Flight Simulator, but DCS World currently requires you to use the Game Hub software, and it works absolutely fine with the Game Hub software. So what I'm sharing with you is just my settings that I've been using for a while with the Tobii Eye Tracker 5, and if you want to just pause the video as I go through it, you're welcome to do so, and then try out the settings and see how they work for you. So I've got obviously the enable eye tracking on. I've got responsiveness for the eye tracking. This is all eye tracking at the moment at 30%. Then I've got exponent at 2.0, inflection point 0.8, start point 0.2, and end point 1. Then we've got our limits. Now at the moment it seems you can only go to 90 or negative 90, so that's what I've got it set to. So the limits on yaw is negative 90 and the pitch negative 90, and with the pitch mirror turned on. Then we go to the head tracking settings. I've got the head tracking turned on, head auto center turned off, enable head roll. Now you can turn that on if you want to and you'd like to do head roll. I find that quite difficult in DCS World if you're trying to do combat. Like we don't really need to add that extra dimension to it, but if you want to turn it on and give it a go and try and lean around, you can turn on head roll. The Tobii Eye Tracker 5 is capable of doing that, so you have that option, but I do have it turned off just for this game. Then I have yaw sensitivity at 3, pitch sensitivity at 1.34, and then we go to the sensitivity gradient, so exponent at 1.25, inflection point 0.5, start point 0, end point 1. And then we've got our limits. So we've got the yaw at 130, and then the pitch 90, and then with the pitch mirror turned on. And then we have the head position down here. I've got that turned on. Now the big thing is the Z sensitivity. You'll notice I've got that at 0 or turned off essentially. Z sensitivity is where you're leaning in towards the monitor so that you can like look at something. So if you're in the cockpit, you can just lean forward and you can zoom in on the area of the cockpit, and then lean back and your seat and you can sort of zoom out. I don't turn that on. I use like the mouse wheel or even a control on my throttle to be able to do that. But if you want to, you can turn the Z sensitivity on and use that. But I have X sensitivity at 1.2 and Y sensitivity at 0.75, and then the Z sensitivity at 0. Control features: if you just want to turn off the Tobii for a few moments to look at a particular section, you can use right control and left, and then you can change that to another key combination if you want to. That's just what I'm using. I've got the view center on disable off, and I've got reset head tracking key set to right control and right. So you'll notice I've got it quite simple there for the Tobii functions: right control and left, and right control and right. If you jump into a plane, it's not working, it looks all strange, just tap right control and right and you should be straight away in the center of where you're used to seeing it. It's just really depending on how you've jumped into your seat and jumped in front of your computer monitor, how it's picking you up. But once you tap that, it's going, okay, this is the center, this is where you want to sit today, no problem, I recognize that, and we'll go from there. If you find during your flight you've moved a little bit in real life and the plane's starting to sort of lean to a side, just tap that button, right control plus right, and it'll recenter it. So yeah, not too big a deal there. So hopefully you find that helpful. I'm just trying to do a training flight in this video, and I'm just taking you along with me. But I thought I would show you the Tobii Game Hub settings straight away. This is the latest settings that I'm using at the moment in March 2023 with the latest Game Hub version that is available on the Tobii website. So let's get over towards the game, and I'll show you the Tobii Eye Tracker a little bit. So, okay, you're normally used to seeing this view, yeah? But what we can do is we can sort of lean. So notice how I can now sort of lean to that side, and I can lean to that side. And not only that, I can very easily sort of lean over the nose of the plane, the tip of the plane, and sort of look over. Sometimes that's really useful in combat because you can't quite see someone, but with this, no problem at all, I can still see you. So there's that. Now, a lot of people did have trouble with trying to keep it stable. So they'll look down here and it's just not stable. That's me with those settings that I'm using. That's how stable I've got it. So I can basically just click a button if I want. Click and unclick. I can go back over the other side. I can go back to here very quickly. Click, unclick. So it's not too difficult. Very stable for me at least. And then, you know, go back to here. Now, say you didn't want to have to keep your eye stable, right control and left, and you can see I can just keep it stable. So now I can just click, but it's not tracking my head or my eyes at the moment. It's just disabled it for a few moments because I want to look at this section for a little while, and I just don't want to have to deal with worrying about my eyes and my head. So if you find that's useful, do that, because that's going to help you, especially in this game or in some competitive type of scenario where you're trying to look at your screens down here for your radar, and you're trying to work out what's going on over here, and you're just not worried about worrying about your eyes and your head moving all the time. You can just pause it for a few moments. Now you can just click here and just do what you need to do. Once you're ready to now look outside the cockpit again, no problem. Oh yeah, I see you. I'm going to fly towards you now, you know, so there is that. But yeah, I'll just give you a bit of a view over the cockpit. Now, to zoom in and out at the moment, I'm just using my mouse, because obviously you have to click things a lot in this game. And so I'm often got my mouse ready to go there. But there is many different controls methods you can use in this game. But certainly I think a few people are certainly using the mouse in DCS World at some point in the game. So yeah, I can go down to here. Now sometimes what was difficult was to see how the seat's sort of covering it. It's not too bad in this plane, but some planes it's bad. So you just have to turn your head slightly more to be able to see whatever the button is at the very back. So I can do that pretty easily with this Tobii Eye Tracker. One plane which has difficulty with that is the F-14 Tomcat. The other thing is, say I'm stable in my seat, and you want to like lean towards the left. See how I can just lean towards the left or lean towards the right? So the other trick you can do is you're just leaning towards the left and then looking down, and then you can see really easily down there. So that's the other thing which you can do by leaning. And I'm just leaning in my real life seat. I'm moving maybe a couple of centimeters. The other thing is, as far as how far away I'm sitting from my monitor, well, the first question is, what monitor am I using? Just at the moment, in this video, I'm using a 32-inch curved Samsung monitor. Okay, so it's 32-inch, it's curved, and it's a Samsung. And I'm sitting at literally an arm's length from my monitor. So I measured it, what is an arm's length? And it's 80 centimeters for me. So from my fingertip to my shoulder, and it's around about 80 centimeters for me. So I'm just touching my monitor with my finger. That's how far I'm sitting from my monitor. I'm leaning back in my chair, and I can just reach the monitor. And then in front of me, I've obviously got my keyboard and mouse, and a little bit of a stretch of my joystick. But that's how I've got it set up just at the moment. You can get better setups than me the more time you want to spend on your arrangement of your equipment around you. Sometimes it gets difficult once you start adding in other joysticks and throttles and so forth, so you can have a lot of equipment around you. But the Tobii Eye Tracker 5 does mean that you don't have to have anything on your head. So I'm not having to wear anything on my head at the moment, which is very cool. So I'll just go over the cockpit, just showing you the cockpit very slowly with my eyes. You can see I'm sort of going up the right here, and I can look. Now most of this I'm just doing with my eyes. So you can see I'm just sort of leaning around, going down here. I can lean right slightly because I can't clearly see that switch. To say it was over here, it was hidden. Often that's a bit of a nuisance when you're not using a Tobii Eye Tracker 5, but what I can do is I can just lean ever so slightly right, and now suddenly I can see all those buttons very clearly, and I can click them if I need. So you can see I can just click the buttons as I need, no problem. I can go down to here, click whatever I need. I can change it to whatever I want. Go down to here, I can turn it on to manual. Down to here, and then again, keep turning, and I can see all the buttons. So yeah, one thing you may want to do is just set up a control maybe on your throttle or your joystick, just so you can go up and down, so you can move like your height, because sometimes all of this information, just see here, it's kind of hidden, and like you can put on your, especially in this plane, you can put on the DED data. So the DED data is all of this information here on this screen. I'll just put it on list 6 so you can see that. So it's got my ground speed and stuff. So instead of having to look here, you can actually look up here in the HUD. And so you go down to here, turn on the DEE data, but you'll notice I still can't see it because it's down here. But if I lean upwards, can you see now I can see it all? And instead of having to lean up in real life, you may want to just set a button to do that, so that you can move your height up and down. There is sometimes on the planes an adjustable button for the seats in some of the modules, but instead of having to move up and down in real life, like I can move up and down in real life, but now I'm missing all the stuff in the top. So yeah, just something you might want to set up just so you can move up and down. But the Tobii Eye Tracker 5 will deal with it. If you want to physically move in real life, now I can see it, now I can't. Now I can see it, now I can't. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it lets you do that. It's very natural to use for me. It's a lot like what real life is like. Now, one of the hardest things is trying to look directly behind you. So with the Tobii Eye Tracker 5, I can use my eyes to look to the right, so you can see I can sort of get that far back towards my wing tips just with my eyes. I haven't moved my head yet. Now I can see my wing. And then I can cross to the other side, and you can sort of see I'll begin to get my head towards that. Yep. And there we go. Now if I go and use my head as well, it's going to make it so much easier. So if I turn my head just towards the edge of the monitor, you can see now I can look all the way behind me, and I can look up, and I can look down slightly, and back again, and if I use my head as well. So it's really just for those 180 degrees that I'm moving my head. Most of the time, like if I'm just in the cockpit here, that's just my eyes. I'm not actually moving my head at all. So you're not going to get a tired head with the Tobii Eye Tracker 5. A lot of people using VR, you'll notice they're going, they're trying to look up here and up there and whatever, you know. It's like, with this, I'm not having to move my head very much. So for me to try and track you way up there, it's simple. In fact, it's easier in real life, what the real life pilots are doing, where they're having to go, oh my gosh, they're having to turn the whole head. I'm not having to do that. I'm just looking in one spot almost in front of me the whole time. So, you know, you're at a bit of an advantage in some ways over someone who's using VR and they're trying to keep an eye on you. You're going to be able to keep an eye on them just very simply. I'm just trying to show you here how you can look above. So like that's up above, and then I can look right, but I can also look up, of course. And then just to describe where I'm looking left, and then I'm looking up. Yeah, so, and then of course I can do the whole 180 behind me and then look up. Can you get the idea? So I can very easily keep track of someone around me and work out where they are in terms of where my position is. This plane is probably one of the worst because it's got that whole bubble canopy, so you don't really see a lot of what's around you to sort of give yourself your positioning. But if you remember where you've looked from, then you know very quickly how you can return. The whole time you've got your monitor in front of you, so you've got that as a kind of a reference, you know, in terms of what you just did with your head. But yeah, so that's just off the left wing to the right wing, and can you do 180 degrees? Well, yes, of course you can. In the Tobii Eye Tracker 5, it's super easy, super quick. I don't know what to say about that. So what I wanted to do was a small mission. We've got a GBU 38 on here, and we've got one of these AGM 45 things. Let's just go check the name of them again. The missile, AGM 154A JSAL, and then we've got a GBU 38. And we've got a few enemies out there. And we're going to just do a little training mission to see if we can drop those two things on these targets out here. We'll see if we can find one of them, and then we'll go from there. So yeah. Now I don't have my rudder pedals, they're sideways, shall I say? So I won't worry about that. But just keep in mind, I'm not using my rudder pedals just at the moment. But we've got our ground speed over here, and we're just moving forward gently with the plane. Using the 4090 graphics cards, if you're wondering why my game is so smooth, well, hopefully there'll be even faster graphics cards in the future, and then we just will be able to play DCS without too much trouble. There's also a lot of enhancements coming to DCS, which are not quite released yet, I believe, for the multi-threading and so forth. But they're always actively working on that. And DLSS, I don't know if that comes to DCS at all, but it works a lot and very well in Microsoft Flight Simulator, the whole DLSS stuff. It's very cool. Massive performance gains in terms of your FPS. So we're just going to put ourselves off into the sky. Now, one thing I can do at the moment, just over here, I'm going to power on my weapons. So the 154 and the GBU38. We've got a little countdown timer thing with the A10 up there. It'll say RDY when it's ready, basically. But we can start that process. There's our plane. If you're wondering, does it work in the third-person view? In Microsoft Flight Simulator it can. If it does work in this game, I think I set it up so it doesn't. So if you're wondering, I don't use it in the external view. It's only for the internal view that I'm using it for, at least in DCS. And most of the time, I'm just using the internal view anyway. It's only if I want to do a flyby or, you know, something like that, to see the engines, to see how to, you know, just for a cool whatever. But this would have a lot of applications if you were trying to do like cinematic videos and you're trying to get a particular sort of scanning shot of a plane going past. You know, you can do that so easily with the Tobii Eye Tracker. It could have some applications for that, for sure. But yeah, you can sort of see how I can look around inside the cockpit. This is not the hardest plane. You can see how I lean out to the right here, and now I can start to see some of the buttons underneath, and then I come back to the center, I can't see them. Lean out to the right, now I can see this button there, see? So yeah, stuff like that. Sometimes you can't see that button there. I can't see it at all, but I just lean out to the left, and I can see that button. And I can click whatever. You'll have to adjust it slightly for each plane, but to be honest, I've been using this with every plane, these settings. So yeah, other than needing to go up and down, because if you go up and down, then you can start to see all this anyway, and you just look left and right as you need it. Let's put ourselves in the air. Actually, what I have got, there's a button I can hit so I don't use the afterburner. So what I might do is try to enable that. We'll see if it works. The afterburner detent thing. So I'm going to tap it now, and then I'm just going to put it to full power. And what should happen is we won't have an afterburner. See how there's no afterburner? So just one way you can take off without an afterburner. I'll just jump back in the cockpit, and we'll keep ourselves level enough on the runway to take off. I'll just pull back gently on the joystick, and we're in the sky. Push G on the keyboard, and we can see our gear's gone in, and then we really need to use our trim because the weight between the two different weapons is quite different. I see. Okay, cool. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go down to here and go and bring up our TGP, standby as ground. I'm going to click on snowplow, which brings it towards the front. And then I just need to, so you'll notice, like, if you want to move around in real life, you can do so. But I'm just going to head off towards this direction up there, so I'm just looking up there. I'm going to move myself towards that direction. There's our enemies. And so then I'm going to take us out of snowplow mode. We're going to make it soy first, take us out of snowplow mode. And then try and move it around. There we go. So I'll move the cursor over towards what we're looking at. It's still going to be a while before we get over there. Put it into narrow mode, and then I'm just going to zoom in, And we can find our friends down there. So we'll choose this one today. We'll click up on him, we've got a point track. And then with our weapons, we'll just drop the GBU 38 first. Well, the other one's actually longer range, so we'll go with that 154. We're in range to shoot. So we can drop. And we have the master arm on? Yeah, we do. But I don't think we dropped anything. So just a few things to work out yet. He's locked. Master arm is on. Ground jettison is off. We've got it on cat 3. We can turn the landing lights off. We'll come around again. And if I don't have to keep explaining things as I try and work out my training flight, that'll be helpful. So we're about 3.8, 3.9. So what I'm doing is just going to go back out a little bit, and then we'll come back in and see if we can give it a go. So you can look out there. The enemies are down there, basically. Okay, that's all we're doing. And I'm just using the Tobii Eye Tracker 5 to look over there, come back to here, so forth. You feel a little bit more like you're floating. Like it's, you know, sometimes it can feel very rigid in the game. You don't feel like you're actually a real thing, but the Tobii Eye Tracker 5 just suddenly starts to make you feel like you're not rigid, not like this fixed camera inside a plane. You're actually a real living human who can sort of move around and feel the shock of the plane and so forth. You feel a little bit more like that because it's reacting to what you're doing. Yeah, it's difficult for me to show it off perfectly in a training flight plus talk. But yeah. My objective here is to see if we can get the bombs on the target. So, some other things. What I haven't done, I think, is I haven't hit the air-to-ground mode. Possibly. We've got it on pre-mode. And we're going to change this to auto. We can also put it onto CZ. And just check that we've got laser on. Definitely master arm is on. Powers are on. It's a 154A and the other one is ready. So see how it says RDY here? I'll zoom in. See how it says RDY? So that one's ready now. If it had A10 or something, it's not ready. And then this other one is RDY as well. So they both are ready to be fired. And that's all good. So we know that much. And then we're really looking at our information up here. So to see if we're in range or not. We also know how far away we are. We're about 21 and gaining even further away. And then this is our TPG, and then this is our actual weapon information. We just got it in pre-mode, and so pre-planned, and then we just got it on auto here, and so forth. TV mode's useful in the day. Black and white hot is probably the most useful overall for me. Spin around. You can tell the direction we need to go from this up here. So I can look down over the wing and I can see the ground, come back around, come up to here. Just keeping myself nice and level. So we just want to check which weapon we've got. I want the one which is the furthest range, which is the 154. We're coming towards range in 4 seconds, apparently. We're 15,000 feet, we're in range now. So we can apparently launch. So I'm just going to keep myself nice and level. Going to bring that throttle back, because we're going way too fast. Yeah, we're in launch range. So just go nice and wings level. And then we're going to try and hold down the launch weapon button. And you can see it's gone. So while that's going, what I'm going to do is I'm now going to change to my other weapon. And I'm going to make doubly sure that we get this target. Now, the other big question is, what was I launching at? Well, the first weapon won't matter too much because it's an area of effect kind of weapon, so it'll get a whole big area. But this one will matter. So if we go down to here, and I'm just going to do a point track. So I've got a point track on him. And then we're going to try and point track this. Now this weapon won't have as much range. So we're going to fly it in and deliver it that way. Just give ourselves a little bit of a level out. There we go. So we've got 13 seconds or so before we have to launch. Before we can launch. We're reasonably high up. Oh, 10. Yep, we can launch now. So this little bracket here, if you got a little indicator in the middle of that bracket, I'm trying to hold the joystick and not the mouse, but basically we can fire. So I'm going to fire. It should have come off the rack. So there's that one. So now we just have to watch what happens. So we'll lean off to the left as much as we can, and then start to do like a right circle of that, and we'll keep it in range for a little while for us. And you can possibly tap this on and tap that on. Yeah, we'll just leave that on. So it's down there that the two bombs are hitting. Okay, they're the two bomb locations that we're going to hit. This is our target sort of area. And there's the two bombs. So this is the first one that's going to hit, and then I think this one is still going to come in. So we'll watch this one first, and we'll see if I have any luck. We can, of course, watch it here. So that's the other place that we've got going on. But we'll watch it from there. Let's see if I'm accurate enough to hit a target with the GBU-38. It's a set and forget type of weapon. We've got 63% on that weapon. So they've been alerted to there's a problem, and there's some enemy destruction coming. This one's going to explode just before it gets towards the target. There we go, it's exploded. And then we can see all the little droplets coming down towards the area. And then it's going to scatter all over the place. We'll see what damage it does. There we go. We've got a critical damage on one of them. And so that's one way you can deploy that weapon. And so that was over there. All of that happened. So we're back in the plane now. And we'll just go and do a little low flyby pass, and then we'll come back and land. Because we didn't put any other bombs on here, so we're pretty much out other than a gun. If you wanted to, we could put the gun on. There you go, the gun's on. I don't know if I've got the gun enabled, but we'll just check and see if we can shoot. Oh yeah, we do have a gun working. But you can see the smoke down there. So yeah, they're all going to shoot at me, so I'm going to go through very quickly. You can see the impact on the ground down there. Pretty cool. And we'll get out of there. So yeah, that's the gun, that's the weapons. That was my little training flight. That's my little tiny demo of the Tobii Eye Tracker 5. But I mean, ultimately, you can look around, you can turn up any buttons you need to while flying the plane. I can go over to here, I can change my thing to off so that there's no lights if I need to do a bombing run and you don't want to be making yourself obvious. You can open up your air-to-air refueling little vent at the top here if you're going to go off and do air-to-air refueling. By the way, one of the biggest uses for the Tobii Eye Tracker 5 is air-to-air refueling, because it makes life so much easier, because you can just sit here and you can just look at the refueler, go back, look at the refueler, go back. You can look at your buddies behind you quickly, go back to the refueler, you can lean. Sometimes the actual dashboard or the cockpit is sort of in the way of you, and so you can't sort of see the probe. So depending on what plane or module you're using, you can sort of just, you know, lean around and so forth. So I'll try to maybe demonstrate that in some future videos, but at the same time I want to play Microsoft Flight Simulator as well. Crazy for me to say in a DCS video, but yeah. So I might try and also demonstrate some of that. So there's a runway over here. Just going to bring the throttle right back. We'll bring out master arm just to not simulate off. and then bring out our brakes, the air brakes. Checking the outside view, we have air brakes or not. There we go. So we've got some air brakes, got about 400 to burn up here. If you're having trouble and the plane's just got too much speed, you can just go pull left, hard right, pull right. Because the plane doesn't have a lot of lift sort of thing going on there, you lose your speed really quickly doing this. So just do that in front of your runway. Especially in a little fighter plane like this. Just one idea. You can see over there, we can see over there. We're going to bring back our little hard point. That's still in the plane, but all the bombs are gone. So yeah. Bring it over towards the runway. Obviously, the more I record videos like this, and try to talk and demo and show you the Tobii Eye Tracker 5, the better I'll get at it. But the other thing is, as long as you got the idea of what the Tobii Eye Tracker can do, because you know, once you know how to do that, then you can show me how good you are with the Tobii Eye Tracker 5, and that'll be great. So we're coming down towards the ground here, which is a little bit early. So I'm just going to tap G. Normally we wouldn't be having to look all over the place. I'm just trying to demo to you how you can look around. So here, like, you know, I can sort of lean over my nose to still see what's going on. I'm not stuck down here. So I'm like, where the hell's the runway? You know, it's like, okay, it's up there. We're okay. All chill. 170. And we can just bring it into that E bracket there. If you want to, I can just quickly turn off this, because we don't need it at the moment. Come back here. We're on the E bracket. Doing about 150. We should be set up. Pretty good. Just nicely in the E bracket. I'll just launch a point on runway that I'm going to sort of attack. Keep bringing that speed down now at this point. And in this landing at least, I'm going to sort of level myself towards the right just slightly at the end. So here we are, just the ever so gentle slightly right, and then I'll just bring it back to idle or fall gently on the runway, and just keep your nose up if you want to. Don't do the tail thing. And you can put your nose wheel steering on or hit W on the keyboard. I think my nose wheel steering can come on. You know what's happening? This little switch is not up. So if I push it now, see how it's coming on? Couldn't work it out. So there's these two little switches here on the side. So you wouldn't normally see them, but see how there's a little switch there, and you've got to move it up and down, otherwise you can't get a light in here. So the same on this side, if I move it all the way down, no light, and then move it up, see, I can see the light. So just another thing that, you know, Tobii Eye Tracker 5 can make a little bit easier. Especially if you're learning and you're not sure about buttons and stuff like that. We'll just come off the runway here, and we'll park somewhere in front of us. But yeah, it's a new settings video for the Tobii Eye Tracker 5 2023. You can see me using it in 2023 with the F-16 here. You can see me drop a couple of bombs with it. It's possible. You can take some targets out with it. They were the GPS guided weapons. And then we'll come back over here and stop. If you're just trying to check for traffic, like looking around, you know, like when you're taxiing, you're not sure, is there a plane over to my left somewhere? Well, you can do it very easily with this. You know, what's around me? And I can still keep my controls, like my fingers on the keyboard. Just keep note of what I'm doing here so you don't do it yourself. You want to keep your speed in the F-16 down. Don't go too fast. But I'm doing a fancy ending here for the video as a demo to you how a real F-16 gamer would play the game and how a real F-16 pilot would not fly the plane. Something like that. So yeah, hopefully you found it entertaining. But that's the Tobii Eye Tracker 5. And look, I mean, if you got the cockpit open or not, it still works, you know. Like, here's it with the cockpit closed, click the button, open the cockpit, And you've got the cockpit opening. I can now look up, and as it opens the cockpit, so I can sort of follow it up. You see what I mean? And you can sort of look around the cockpit. So there we go. So I can sort of look around all the way back down. Got me? Or I can look here and just look left and right. Yeah, or I can follow the cockpit around. So hopefully you got that concept. And yeah, I can do heaps of leaning. I can look over the nose. We somehow managed safely to get on the ground, but as I said, this is a training flight, so the whole point is just to keep practicing and learning and getting better. And yeah, have fun, basically, with it. So yeah, do I recommend the Tobii Eye Tracker 5? For me, it works. It's great. I haven't got any problems with it. It's doing what I want it to do. It's really easy to use. I can just put it on a Coke can underneath my monitor and it works with me. If you want to use the real attachment, it's actually really good, by the way. It's a lot better than a Coke can, and it will work. But I'm just using a curved monitor, but they do have an adapter to work with a curved monitor. So if you want to use that, go ahead. Yeah, no problems. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'm back on the ground. We should shut it down. To shut it down, just doing right shift and end. And then I click here twice, and that's it. How easy is that? Okay, I've got to go through this long shutdown procedure. Well, as a gamer, you can just do that if you want to. But if you want to prepare it for the next person, of course, you can turn off all these switches, and then put it to off, and then put it to off, and you can keep going. Turn that off, you know, essentially trying to bring the plane back towards the state that you would have found it in. We can put that into off position, put that back onto Cat 1 because we don't know what weapons are going to load, and so forth. Put that laser definitely off. Yeah, very fun. Of course, you can, you know what the joystick's like, sometimes you can't see around the joystick, so like you can click this to remove it, but with the Tobii Eye Tracker 5, you can just lean right. Do you see what I mean? Now you can see it. Come back to center. So I can't see it. I don't want to remove my joystick. So if I just want to see something behind there for a second, just lean right, and now I can see that. I can see that. I can even hit this switch if I want to. Come back again. So yeah, just little things like that sometimes which are in the way. You can't quite see a switch, so you can just lean. But the up and down will help with that as well. But yeah, so it's working. I did a few videos without the Tobii Eye Tracker 5, so I just wanted to at least let everyone know I'm still using the Tobii Eye Tracker 5. But sometimes for me to do the video, I just want to concentrate on the content of the video rather than everything else. Also, sometimes just in real life, I'm moving a computer around in the house, and so I haven't got it set up on a Coke can. So that's all. But it's not hard to set up. Just plug it in, and you're away, as you can see. Have a comfy seat, sit in front of your monitor. You can go a little bit closer than 80 centimeters. So say if I come up to my monitor, see what I mean? I'm like now, I don't know, a lot closer. I'll go and measure it while I'm on the video here with you. So we put it in inches, and I'm like 13 inches away now from the monitor. And you can see, so I'm 13 inches, and now look, I can still sort of look around and so forth. So to work, it just needs a clear view of your head. You would probably orientate the Tobii Eye Tracker 5 ultimately, depending on where you're planning to sit and where you're planning to use it from. But it needs to be able to see you ultimately. You want a clear view between you and the Tobii Eye Tracker 5. What a lovely view it is today out here in the weather. And yeah, it works in Microsoft Flight Simulator as well. So I want to try and bring it into Microsoft Flight Simulator a little bit more as well. I'll just do a last look around. You can see how steady I can keep it. And I can just zoom in at will pretty much. You can zoom in on that. Zoom in on that. You can really see how the buttons are very 3D looking. Can come down here. Can look at this display. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. I've done some commentary. I've tried to do commentary. I could have just had a silent video, but then it wouldn't be as interesting. So yeah, I've talked a little bit in this video. I think I've achieved everything I can in this video, unless I take off and drop more bombs. So I'll probably do that after this video. I hope you have a great day, and thank you for watching. Leave a like or a comment. I am reading all the comments. If I can reply and I think I've got something useful to say, I will do that. But that was the F-16. I mean, we could do this with every plane in the game, of course. So yeah. Very cool. Awesome. Have a great day.